health is really in mastering those basics and just going all in on them, right? Like every morning, get up and go on a walk and get your circadian rhythm set, get sunlight in the eyes every day. HIIT training is really great. The exercise is really great. Sleeping really well is so incredibly important.
Kayla Barnes is a longevity expert who has personally reversed her biological age by 11 years and one of the few women openly sharing her lab results and protocols. Kayla is redefining what it means for women to take charge of their health, from ovarian longevity to the nuanced differences between female and male longevity.
At the end of the day, it's all cells, right? Differentiated cells. But if we can improve the health of our cells in general through these lifestyle habits, then everything else that we do in terms of biohacking or these like advanced therapies are also going to take better.
Hello and welcome to the Vibrant Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Carrasco. Today I'm joined by Kayla Barnes, a longevity expert who has personally reversed her biological age by 11 years. In this episode, we're diving into her personal routines, the cutting-edge testing she uses with Vibrant, and practical strategies every woman can use to optimize their health span. Well, Kayla, I would love to hear about your journey in becoming a longevity expert. Tell us your story. It's fascinating.
Of course. Well, I'll make a long story somewhat shorter. I've always been interested in health. Like as a kid, I played a lot of different sports, loved like gymnastics, cheerleading, dance, things like that. But, I didn't grow up on a healthy diet. I grew up on a very standard American diet. I would eat like Pop-Tarts and, the whole array. So looking back now, I'm like, wow, I grew up on food like substances, not food, right?
Ultra processed.
Exactly. Yeah. Tons of it. And it was just normal. So, and I totally get that. So moving into, being an adult, I became an entrepreneur. So I've kind of owned or ran my own company for the last, really since I was 17, 18 years old. And it was really fun. But at the same point, I was like, I need to be able to optimize my biology because in order to create the life that I really want, I'm going to have incredible amounts of energy, stamina, and not be fatigued. So really started as a slow build. So I got interested in nutrition, started studying it in college, really got into a ton of content from like Dr. Hyman and Dave Asprey and all like the OGs. And I just was excited about the idea that I could really upgrade my own biology. So I enrolled in some courses. I did everything from like IIN to brain health practitioner under Dr. Daniel Amen. And just started to learn for my own benefit, truly. And then I started to do some of these interesting labs. So about six and a half years ago or so, I got ready to open a longevity medicine clinic. So I had been like dabbling on my own for quite some time. At this point, I'm in my like mid to late 20s. And I started ordering all these labs because we had to determine what are we going to offer at this clinic, So I started ordering all these incredible laboratories, things like Vibrant Wellness, and seeing thousands of tests that I had never been offered or recommended or suggested from my, Western medicine doctor. Started ordering them, doing them on my own and on myself, getting data back. And in parallel, we were, of course, hiring providers. So we were hiring medical doctors, PAs, nurse practitioners. They were all integrative and functional medicine trained. So we would start to look at these labs together. And I was doing things like gut testing and advanced cardiac testing and total toxic testing and full body MRIs, all these things that, again, I had never been recommended before. So as the results came in and I was looking at them with my new medical team, we started to implement some of these therapies. So, the third component of opening a business like this is, what are you going to offer? So started to explore, talk to other providers and clinics and clinic owners and just say, what kind of services are you guys seeing move the needle for patients or clients, And we ended up landing on hyperbaric oxygen therapy, ozone therapy, a ton of precision IVs. So drawing something like a micronutrient panel and then doing custom IV therapy on that. Lots of in-depth testing. Also an ozone sauna, cryotherapy, red light bed, NanoV, PMF, all of the staples now in like longevity. But 6 years ago or so, it wasn't quite as common. So I just went really down the rabbit hole on all things longevity, optimization. What could I do? What could I test? How could I improve it? And I was so fortunate to have this medical team to be alongside me. Throughout the journey though, so when I first started, I'm a very disciplined person. So if I decide I'm doing something, then nothing is going to sway me. Like I don't drink alcohol. I don't go out with friends. I don't do a lot of these things.
Right.
I do go out with friends or have them over like early in the day, or we work out or do something like that. But I will stick to anything I just decide I'm going to do. So as I started to implement these really disciplined protocols, and we were looking at the longevity research as an example, caloric restriction.
Right.
So we know that this is incredibly powerful for extending longevity in the mice.
Right.
And I was doing that. I think it's about 20 to 30% caloric restriction, yielding in about a 20 to 30% extension in lifespan. But as I was implementing a lot of these, as I now call them like for men by men protocols, I was just realizing that there were a lot of nuance that I was missing because as I was doing that level of caloric restriction with intense exercise and, cold plunging and sauning and all the other things I was doing, I was watching my hormones trend in the wrong direction. I was watching my thyroid decline. And so it was at that point where I decided, okay, I really need to like take a step back. I actually brought on a small team of female PhD candidates, and we started to pull the female-specific literature. There's not a ton, as we all know. So women weren't required to be included until about the early 90s, which is when I was born. So about the time of my life so far. And we just started implementing new protocols based on not only the data that we could find, but also just really diving deep into bioindividuality, what my labs were saying at that exact moment. And, I've just shared this, N of 1 study with my community and on socials, and it's been so fun. So
yeah, that's amazing. And I think what an amazing and also unique opportunity, because most people don't have that opportunity. So to be so generous is to share that with people and they can come along with you on your journey. I think that's like a really nice gift that you can give to others.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm glad you see it that way. I also see it that way. I've been blessed to have access to essentially every therapy that's out there. Everything I've done, different forms of stem cells. I've done the $10,000 per session therapeutic plasma exchange, all of the modalities and therapies. And then I can hopefully just say, hey, for me, maybe this did work really well, or maybe it didn't work really well. Like I can hopefully help wade through some of it and show labs, So I did like total toxic burden prior to therapeutic plasma exchange. And then I did one right after. And then I did another one a few months later. So I can say to people, hey, this is the reduction in toxins that I saw for therapeutic plasma exchange, because it's a huge investment. A lot in this industry is still very expensive. So I think if you can just share, what's worked for you, of course, it might not be the same for every woman or every person, but it can maybe be at least helpful.
Yeah, I think that one of the challenges is that, a lot of the work that's done even within the functional medicine space is not quite standardized.
Yeah.
So I think that, and that's, a whole complicated issue as well, right? Because, like you said, most studies that have been done, even in the conventional medical world, have all been mainly on men. And so we have data, but is possibly skewed, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it can be complicated when we're trying to impact health. And I think the wonderful thing about longevity medicine, functional medicine, is looking at the N of 1, looking at the patient as the N of 1 and saying, okay, well, you're a bio-individual and here are the different things that really can impact your health. And we can look at these different markers, like we can look at your microbiome, we can look at your toxic burden, we can look at your genetics, we can look at your micronutrients, and we can from there extrapolate and decide what we should approach. And I think that's probably likely what's missing mostly in the conventional model.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I get a question all the time, like, what supplements do you take, And I make it very clear. I'm like, I think there's a foundational supplement stack, things like omega-3s, magnesium, vitamin D, that are probably beneficial for everyone, right? And then I have what I call my longevity, like supplement stack. So that's things like NR, NMN, some spermidine, some urolithin A. But then I say this middle section is what I call my protocol supplements. And these supplements are things that are based on my own bio-individual and specific lab. So every quarter we're doing the micronutrient testing, and then I determine what supplements I need from there. Every quarter we're doing a gut test, every quarter we're doing a total toxic burden test. So my protocol would look very different than someone else's. But what I've tried to do is just explain what I'm looking for and what my team is looking for and, my medical advisors are looking for, so that women can start to get like a feel of where they might want to start, right?
Yeah.
So if obviously I think like a gut test is the foundation for all health, but I have it's protocol.kaylabarnes.com, but it's like a breakdown of every test, how often I do it, and then where I would start based on budget, because I'm completely aware of the fact that, there's a huge cost to this. So hopefully that's helpful. But yeah, we're all so unique and just require for peak performance, optimal health,
many different things depending on your individuality. Yeah, that's true. So one of the things that I love about what you're doing is it's very woman-centric. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more and tell the audience a little bit more about, kind of what the research shows as far as differences between female longevity and male longevity. And then what are some of the misconceptions that we also have and carry currently in our world?
Well, and from a medical standpoint, actually, this is Dr. Stacy Sims who says this, but women are not small men.
That's right.
I interviewed Dr. Amy Killen the other day, and she said that we pink it and shrink it in relation to the medical research, right? So I love those two taglines.
Shrink it. It's funny.
So that's definitely a misconception, is that, all things are equal. And I see this play out a lot too. So because what I'm doing is so N of one, and I'm looking at so much data on a literally every single day basis, and then I compare it against my husband. So I make my husband do all this stuff too. Like our story got a ton of interesting exposure, because before our first date, I sent him like 7 labs to do. And we went deep. We did like genetics, total tox, gut testing, longevity panel, the whole 9 yards. And so it's fun because I can look at his versus mine in real time, which is really fun.
Yeah.
But the research, so I kind of take 2 different approaches. So we know that there's the randomized control trials. We know that we have the data, the studies, right? Which everybody wants that. But because I owned and operated a clinic for 6 years, there's also a lot of clinical data to be gleaned. And I would say 85, 90% of my friends are doctors. So we also all talk. I speak at a ton of different conferences where a lot of clinical data is presented. And sometimes the literature hasn't yet caught up, of course, to what you can see play out in clinical practice.
It's like a 17-year gap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've heard like 20 or so, but probably 17 exactly. So so a lot of the data, there's basically nuance in every single category of what we can call health optimization basics or longevity optimization basics. So we all know that exercise is good, right? So exercise is great for men and women, but then there's nuance. So that's where what I'm doing, I think, is a bit different. So men can probably exercise high intensity interval training every single day of the week if they want. They don't have to be concerned about their hormones or their cycles. They can go all out, right? So with women, we of course want to be doing HIIT workouts. It's great for our mitochondria. It can increase the density of our mitochondria. It can actually clear out mitochondria, mitochondrial biogenesis and mitophagy. Incredible for us. Good for our cardiovascular systems. But we might want to have a different protocol for that. So as one example, the Norwegian 4x4 is something. So VO2 max is a measurement that I'm looking at. It's a great longevity marker. It's how your body uses oxygen and at the max capacity. So men's protocol is 4x4, right? So 4 minutes all out, 4 minutes of recovery, 4 times. For my more female-centric, and I actually learned this through my conversation with Dr. Stacy a while back and implemented it, we need a little bit more recovery when it comes to this high intensity interval training. So I'm doing a 4x6. So 4 minutes of all out, 6 minutes of recovery, 4 times. So that's one small example. If we wanted to, and the data is not completely backing that we need to make major changes or anything in our, let's say, cycle optimization. In fact, the data says there's not too much change, but clinically reporting from either myself or one of the 500,000 women that follow me, some women do find better output or a better progress when they alter it slightly to their cycle. So I want to be clear, I don't change my workout routines completely based on the cycle, but for example, if, during my bleed, if I'm feeling more fatigued, it's listening to biofeedback, right? And then scaling it down a bit. Whereas though a man wouldn't even have to make this consideration. So there is a ton of, cycle syncing plans out there and stuff, ideally or by the data, we have the most energy and best recovery in follicular throughout ovulation. We get into luteal, we might down regulate a little bit.
Yeah.
Our body temperature naturally increases. So we might feel a little bit more fatigued easily. One thing I do definitely do though, as it relates to hormetic stressors is cold plunging. That's another one. So cold plunging can be super beneficial, increased dopamine. It's all over the wellness space, you know, but I only do that in my follicular phase because I know I'm the most resilient. Whereas I really want to not apply too much stress to myself in that luteal phase so I can allow that natural progesterone rise. So that's one area of nuance that I think is different between men and women, right? Also, I would say sleep. So the data shows that women need between 11 minutes and 20 minutes more of sleep than men. Again, for my N of 1, I need substantially more than that. I'm looking at like 40 minutes typically more than my husband, and even more in some specific phases of my cycle. So in my late luteal through that early follicular, I need even more sleep. So that's another area where, you know, in my protocol, I'm clarifying that I'm getting, you know, between 7.5 to 8.5, sometimes depending on time of cycle, even more of sleep. And I think we've really all been conditioned to think like 6 to 8 hours, that's all. And again, for some individuals, it might work. For men, it may work better than for women. From what I understand, you know, women are exposed to more toxins in their environment through personal care products, things like makeup and shampoo and, you know, all the different products that we apply. But we're also slightly slower detoxers due to how we actually store our fat. So more subcutaneous fat storage. So that could be a reason why women need some more sleep than men. Again, you know, we don't really have like solid data on this yet. We don't know exactly. We don't even know yet truly why women's ovaries age at double the speed of every other organ, right? Wild. I mean, we have ideas, but we don't truly know exactly why. So sleep is another area. I mean, I think there's obviously even differences in nutrition, right? Not only macro nutritional changes, but also micronutrients. So like thyroid health, things of that nature. We know that 80% of autoimmune conditions are women. So really ensuring that we're hitting optimal micronutrient and of course macronutrient profiles, but those can vary as well. So if you see like a top influencer that's a male doing a specific diet that works for him, that's great. But, you know, women have so many more considerations. If you're in, you know, menstruating years, you have fertility to be concerned about. If you're pregnant, you have pregnancy nutrition to be concerned about. If you're in perimenopause, you have that to be concerned about. Also, your training schedule during perimenopause and menopause, I will be changing that. I will be increasing it. I will be doing more jumping, bone density building exercises. I'm doing that now, right, to prepare for that. But it's just going to change so much more than what a male's protocol might be. So every area of longevity optimization, there is nuance that women can do things slightly differently. And then we can take it even a step further to be your own bio-individual protocol, of course.
I love that. So tell me a little bit about ovarian function, since you mentioned that, and how you think that plays out in our health. How can we increase our ovarian health? What can we do to support our ovaries? And why is it important?
Yeah, I mean, super exciting topic. I think that if we can figure out how to delay menopause and extend ovarian aging, the lifespan of our ovaries, it'll be the single best thing that we can do for women's longevity in general, because we know that women already live longer than men, right? On average, like 5 to 7 years or so longer than men. But we're also living in poorer health for longer. So when we hit menopause, a lot of those protective benefits of estrogen and all of our hormones are then diminished if we don't just get on, you know, some sort of bioidentical HRT. And we see the risk of all-cause mortality increase, the risk of cardiovascular events, dementia. Of course, women see, you know, even more skin aging, things of that nature across the entire field. We see more aging come at that point. So, you know, I've interviewed some incredible experts on this topic, like Dr. Jennifer Garrison at the Buck Institute. And we don't, again, know the exact reason why the ovaries age. There's a lot of different hypotheses. Might be, you know, potentially the inflammatory cascade that occurs during a women's cycle, month over month over month, because there's a lining being built and then being shed. There's inflammation when the egg is released. There's inflammation, you know, during the shed. So that could be a reason. I'm excited about the future, though, because I recently became an advisor to a company called Timeless Biotech, and they actually are the first AI model for time to menopause prediction. And that is so exciting because, number one, we should know about what age, you know, right now we can base on what our mothers went through potentially, so genetic like lineage. But this test will actually be essentially a ovarian age test.
Wow.
So in addition to knowing time to menopause, I'll also personally, I'm excited because I can start to try to validate some of the things that I'm doing with ovarian age markers. Like, of course, we have like phenotypic age and biological age, but I really want to reprioritize all the things and put ovarian age at the top of the list. But we don't currently have, like, as far as I'm aware, a clinical marker to really be able to measure how old the ovaries are. We know we can look at AMH, so it's like a measurement of ovarian reserve. But no, I think with this new type of technology and the AI that's coming down the pipeline, we'll be able to take an ovarian age test in our like mid-20s or 30s, or, I'm 34, so I can take the test, implement an intervention such as, 40 to 60 sessions of HBOT, and then retest, isolate that therapy, and then see if there was any movement made. That. So I'm really excited about that. I mean, things that you can do in general, baseline for ovarian health is all the things we already chatted about. So exercise is great blood flow. We need a lot of blood flow. We have a ton of mitochondria in our ovaries and the oocytes. So of course, like the heart and the brain are really high densities, but so are the ovaries. So things that improve mitochondrial health. So going back to that, HIIT training is really great. The exercise is really great. Sleeping really well is so incredibly important for our hormones, our ovarian function. I take sleep so seriously. Like I build my day around sleep. So I'm in bed every day by 8:30 at the latest. I get, 90 plus, 95, 96. You can't get 100 on Oura Ring. I wore a Whoop as a test.
A different tester. Yeah.
I got 100 every single night.
Wow.
It's just different metrics, right? Like they're looking at different things. So optimizing your room environment for high quality sleep is key. So getting, at least an hour and a half of like deep and REM, super important. But working on our mitochondria is definitely important. I also like to do red light therapy on that area. So I don't have any PMS symptoms. Thank goodness, I never really have. But for individuals that do, I've just said, hey, try to use like a red light therapy on that area. And they've all seen really good benefits. So I think that's exciting. There has been some interesting research on red light therapy and infertility conducted. So I think that's a really emerging field. I think it's really great. But I also always want to lean into, like, although I might, own a hard shell hyperbaric chamber and I do all these things, I think health is really in mastering those basics and just going all in on them, right? Like every morning, get up and go on a walk and get your circadian rhythm set, get sunlight in the eyes every day. Here in Austin, 7 o'clock, 6:45. That's right. That's when the sun is peaking. I'm out on a walk every single day, looking, of course you don't want to hurt your eyes, but looking right at the sun,
getting your contacts or glasses.
Exactly. Getting my circadian rhythm optimized because it's so beneficial for hormone health. But at the end of the day, we can piece out all of the individual protocols for like organ health. Let's say like, what are you doing for heart health or ovarian health? But at the end of the day, it's all cells, right? Differentiated cells. But if we can improve the health of our cells in general through these lifestyle habits, then everything else that we do in terms of biohacking or these like advanced therapies are also going to take better. So this rapamycin study is really interesting. It's not completed. It's not yet peer reviewed, but they are using rapamycin to potentially slow down the number of eggs that are being released each month. So if you're a woman and you're listening to this, it's one egg is the one winner egg, but we release all of these eggs from our vault. So if we could slow down the number of eggs that we're losing each month, then it could definitely potentially delay ovarian aging. So I'm excited about potential interventions of this nature for ovarian longevity, but it's still a little bit early. So we'll have to see, but I am doing rapamycin protocol. So,
and I think that would be interesting as well with the new company that you're working with, because, if you can quantify ovarian aging and say someone is aging at a very, very, much faster rate, and then you can implement a protocol like this, and then you could recheck and see, then, that could be very, very useful.
I know. I'm so excited for the quantifying some of these things. Yeah. Definitely.
Pretty cool. It's interesting. I have a lot of female longevity in my family. My grandmother lived to be 103.
Amazing. My great-grandmother is currently 96 living at home.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, right? Because I love in my work with my patients, I love that we're trying to optimize health and we're trying to aim for longevity. But then I look at my grandmother who, she lived a hard life in Cuba. She came to the United States when she was 55 after Castro came into power. And then, she just thrived, even though it was a hard life.
Yeah.
And so I think about the things that she did, and I think that old school kind of approach is what's resurging in longevity medicine, because we're all talking about like, circadian rhythm and going to, having a structure to your life and having purpose and having good sleep and having community. And I see that these are the things that she really did and valued. And it's just interesting how the generations, change in their approach. Like they just kind of live their life. And I think she did live a very intentional life, and stuck to her traditional diet. And when she came to this country, she volunteered for full time till she was 95. So she had purpose and she had community, and she always used her brain, and she never learned to drive. So she walked everywhere and spent a lot of time outdoors. And she wrote poetry and she crocheted. So she really, stimulated her brain. So it's just interesting how, we can look at some of our ancestors and see how they thrived without, actually quantifying anything, and then also use that as we quantify, our health and set these goals for ourselves.
My great grandma, who's 96, she's not doing a single health optimization thing. No. Zero. Like
it's like all my old Cubans. Yeah. None of it.
Yeah. But I think number one, we're living in a very different world, right? So 100%. My grandparents, like loved going over their house because they had this lush garden. They were eating foods that were like real foods with high quality nutrients in them, right? Like the way our foods are grown and our soil quality now is so depleted that you have to go so far out of your way to even get like nutritious food.
And the toxic burden has changed, especially after World War II. So
yeah, the toxins that are in the environment, but also stress. And I think this is one of the biggest areas for women, and something that I'm continually working through. Stress for women. So the studies say that the cortisol is about the same, right? Like baseline cortisols up until about women are 40 are relatively similar. But that is not talking about necessarily the physiological changes that women experience, because we do know that women self-report significantly higher levels of stress. And I've seen this, right, like on my data versus my husband's. So my husband has a far more stressful job than I do at this point, right? Like I was running a company and I was responsible for everything. So that was a different story. But I exited my clinic. So now he has a way more stressful job than I do. And I still have higher baseline levels of stress than he does on Oura Ring, right? We also know that women are more sensitive to stressors. So like if my husband and I both got into a cold plunge at the same temp, it would have more of an impact on me than it would on him. So I think that managing stress is the hardest one for sure, because it's not just taking a supplement. It's not just hitting your exercise goals for the week. It's in your mind, It of course can be also in your body. So you could have physical stress. So I think it's important to identify, do I have a food allergy, or do I have leaky gut? Is it something physical that is going on, or is it mental stress? That's like step one. Step two is then figuring out how can you improve this mental stress. But for many people, including myself, I grew up in a pretty, interesting household, we'll say that. So I had a lot of stress as a child. Then I moved into being an entrepreneur and put so much stress on myself. Other people were putting stress on me. So now is the first time in my life where I'm like, okay, we can take a step back. And by the way, my cortisol has never been audited. So even if your cortisol, this one-time biochemistry report isn't high, it doesn't mean that you're not still, feeling stressed throughout the day, right? Would you agree?
I would 100% agree. And I think a lot of that probably, we could talk about is vagal tone, right?
Yeah.
Your vagal nerve goes from your brainstem and it innervates your heart, your lungs, your gut. But, that is what really strengthens parasympathetic nervous system activity, which is what helps with relaxation response and also digestion, absorption of nutrients. And so, if that circuitry is not working very well, or if you just are under a lot of pressure or stress, your body is not going to understand whether you're truly in danger or you're kind of feel like you're in danger because of the way that your life might be running. And I think the other thing to kind of consider and to say is that, women do carry the emotional load, when you have a family, when you're in perimenopause and you've got kids, and then you've got parents that are aging and you've got a career. I mean, it's a big emotional load to carry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and there is some, data stating that the way our brains work are slightly different,
Yes.
right? So like our stress and fear centers may
Yes.
be engaged a little bit more. We also seem to have more interconnectivity. So we're thinking a lot more about like conversations and things that have occurred than men might be,
Right.
And I only have my husband to fact check this with, but I'm like, is this true? You don't like replay conversations in your head? And he's like, no, I don't do that. He's just like focused on like one task, whereas women might like multitask more. And there's more communication going on in their brain. So yeah, stress is a huge one too, because we also have this unlimited access, right, to stressful things.
Yeah.
Like I can clearly see if I do scrolling on my phone that my stress will uptick on my Oura ring. You know, if I read a book, this does not occur. Yeah. It's actually the opposite, like I'll read my Bible in the morning and I am restored for the entire time.
Same. Yeah.
So it is just introducing. So now what I'm doing is I'm putting 4 intentional blocks of parasympathetic activation into my schedule.
Okay.
Might seem a bit excessive, but I get my morning walk, which I get into restored. And my, reading in the morning, that could look like reading anything. It could look like a meditation, a breath work, whatever works for you, And then midday, I do a breath work session. So I have a little device that I use. It helps you with your breathing pattern. So, and improving long exhales over time. So I do that, but you could just do a free version of just working in your breath, super long exhale as long as you can do. You can do some box breathing, variety of different things.
What's the device that you love? That you
it's called Moonbird. So it's kind of cool. You hold it in your hand. I just keep it at my desk and it inflates and deflates. So it's just neat. Like you're breathing with it. Yeah. So I can pick it up at any time. And I sit it there for a reason. It's not because I need a device, but by seeing it, it reminds me more so to do it. So I have it on my calendar and then I see the thing and then I do it more. So actually my desk setup is like, I've really tried to optimize it. I have Moonbird. I have a Nanovi, which is good for oxidative stress. Yeah. I have a pulse PEMF mat on my chair. Yeah. I have a red light panel there. I have an EMF blocker. I just have this whole setup there so cool. I can do all my stuff throughout the day. I have my red light cap that I do in the morning for like hair growth, but I'm just making it as easy as possible. Less friction equals better compliance. I like that. But the stress piece is something that I think we all, need to, and you're going to have seasons, right? Some seasons are going to be higher stress than others, but I think trying to implement some of these like parasympathetic activations. I'm also using a device called Pulsetto, so that helps to improve vagal nerve tone.
How do you like that versus Truvaga?
I've never used Truvaga, but I've been using the Pulsetto for quite a while now, and I really enjoy it, and it does work.
And it's easy because you just wrap it around your neck. Yeah, I'm playing with one called Sensate.
Okay, yeah. I had one of those like way back, maybe like I feel like when they first came out, the little device you like put right there, right? Yeah.
It just vibrates on your collarbone. But I'm using it for my kids.
Oh, nice.
One of my sons gets belly aches and I put the vibrating device, the Sensate, on him and it just really calms him down within 3 minutes.
I love that.
And the belly aches go away.
That's amazing. So, HBOT works really well too, at least for me. So as soon as the chamber gets pressurized, I'm in restored the entire time.
That's so cool.
That's like if I can't get out of my own head, I'm like, I'm going in here and it's going to do it for me.
Yes.
So
when I've been going to a Matter here in Austin, which is a bio wellness club, and they have an ARC red light bed, they have an amortal chamber, they have hyperbarics. But every time that I go into the red light bed, I go straight into restored.
I love that device because it makes so much sense, right? Number one, it's beautiful. Number two, it like combines all of the best therapies, but it also makes so much sense because what does it do? It gets you into parasympathetic activation first, then applies the therapy. So I try to do that, at home whenever I can. So I'll try to relax first, then do red light therapy because we know in a parasympathetic state, we heal better. So I love the entire concept. Yeah, but I think, the clinic that I had was one of the first clinics to offer amortal in the country. So
that's
very
amazing.
familiar with the chamber.
I tell so many of my patients because I for me, like parasympathetic nervous system restoration is so important. We talk about it all the time. And so I do think it's really important to have those activation moments and to make it very low hanging fruit and make it very easy. Yeah.
A walk is a great way to do it in nature, outside, super easy. You could make contact with the earth, do grounding, right? Like I do PMF. I think of it as like grounding on steroids. Yeah. So you could just go outside, make contact with the earth, go for a swim.
Do you sleep on grounding sheets or anything?
I do have grounding sheets, but now they're probably, so I'm trialing an 8 sleep. It's been a while that I was back and forth on whether or not I would get one. So I'm trialing it. So now I think the 8 sleep is probably over the grounding sheets, but I do have a grounding mat. We have one in our sauna actually too. So the sauna is great because as I was telling you, my husband is now running Heavenly Heat saunas. And it all started because I just wanted the cleanest sauna.
Right.
This is wild, but a lot of sauna companies, especially infrared sauna companies, use wood glues to hold the saunas together, which then off-gas VOCs. They're also sometimes using polyurethanes, wood glues inside of the actual cabin of the sauna. So I did all this research on the healthiest sauna company, came across Heavenly Heat. Long story short, not only did we get a sauna, but now, he's the primary owner and he's running the company. But it's great because the sauna, a bunch of new models are rolling out, but there's a massive red light therapy panel in there. So you can do sauna, red light therapy, and grounding all at the same time.
That is so interesting.
And for someone like me who has such a long checklist of things to do every day, it's a game changer.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, we'll deep dive into more kind of testing and things like that. But tell me, I just want to know, what are some of the like outdoor fun things that you're enjoying now that you're in Texas? Are you growing a garden? Are you?
Yeah, I need to get on more. I will say that. I want to do hikes.
Yeah.
Well, I went on hikes all the time in LA. Loved it.
It was different here.
So fun. I do a lot of walks in the morning, runs in the morning. Morning or evening, right? Like daytime is kind of off limits because the UV index is like 10 or 12 and it's like ultra hot outside. So I do want to have a garden. I want to start growing my own food, but there's a lot of deer where we live. So I'm going to have to, my husband and I are working through, figuring out can we enclose it or something? Yeah,
you'll have to enclose it.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the deer would
no way otherwise.
Eat all of it. Yeah. I have found some good, I loved this like grocery store in LA called Erewhon, but but there's some really good things here too. I found, there's a company called Gather and Deliver that goes to local farms and then they deliver every Friday all these like different biodynamic, organic, local. Do you know this one? Okay, it's great. So they've been delivering to my house. Love it. Love the Radius Butcher Shop that has all like the local farmers markets.
Yeah, they're great.
What's the best farmers market here?
It's tricky. On Sundays, there's a really nice one at Mueller.
Okay, I've heard that.
On Saturdays, there's a really nice one at Barton Creek Mall. And in Bee Cave, there's one, I think, on Sundays also at the Hill Country Galleria. And there might be some in Dripping, but it's,
I find this interesting movement to more packaged goods in farmers markets and less fresh foods. Have you noticed this?
A little bit. And I think it's probably just because it's easier to, the food doesn't spoil. Yeah. And it's probably, if they're delivering also to clients.
Yeah, that's great. So fun things I'm doing in Austin. I've been so busy with work. And as I mentioned earlier, I traveled a lot last month. I have a lot of upcoming, I have like maybe 10 to 15 speaking engagements in the next like month or so, month to two. So I'm doing a lot of rest when I'm not traveling. And traveling like this is very odd for me. I have spent, pretty much the last 5 to 6 years just at home. Refining my protocol, doing all the things that I need to do. Because when I travel, it becomes more difficult to maintain, the level of things that I want to do. Yeah. It's not impossible. It requires a lot more planning, though.
Yeah.
And especially
and there's all the stressors that come with travel as well.
Yeah, the flights, time changes, things of that nature. But it's been fun to like figure out developing little protocols for myself to like optimize, even with a 9-10 hour time change.
So tell us a little bit about your favorite labs and what labs you think might be top labs for, your audience or for people who are listening if they're just kind of diving into the longevity world. So gut testing, I think, is so incredibly important. So the gut zoomer is absolutely necessary. I do all my testing on like a quarterly cadence, unless there's a finding of any sort or something that we need to do it sooner, or just a value that I want to see sooner. My mom, every time I talk to her, she's like, "You're getting another lab?" She's like, "Is this all you do?" I'm like, "Yes, actually. It's kind of like my job." So gut testing, super important. I've seen clinically just so many different symptoms resolve when you optimize the gut. Everything from skin to anxiety to brain fog. So gut testing, super important. I am obsessed with the Vibrant Wellness Longevity Lab. So really looks at a lot of comprehensive cardiac markers, great, of course, like metabolic panel, everything basic, but then all of these additional incredible labs looking at metabolic health, things like, values like leptin, which not a lot of people pull. So really interesting there. Of course, inflammatory markers, really, really important. So that's definitely a staple.
I really love hormone testing, obviously. So there's a lot of hormone testing included in that longevity lab. But if I were to need additional hormone testing, I've been pretty lucky. Actually, Dr. Sarah Gottfried, who's my consulting longevity physician, we were looking at my genetics. She's like, you have a really good genetic predisposition for hormones. So I'm like, great. But I am going to try that test, which I'm excited, the more advanced one, just to see exactly what's going on. One of my all-time favorites is the total toxic burden. So I'm obsessed with this lab. I've been doing this for like over 5 years, right? So I have a very good baseline, and it's really easy for me to see when something shifts. So like, as an example, during the LA fires, I was living in LA. I saw this increase in toxins I had never seen before.
That's interesting.
Myself and my medical team were like, this is crazy. This is not even your lab. And I'm like, no, it actually is. It's like the fires were that toxic.
And you do that one every quarter?
Every quarter, yeah. So excited that all that's been cleared out now. So labs are back to looking good. But I would say those are probably my hero labs. There's some other ones that I like to do on a less frequent basis. I like the oxidative stress profile. So the more, let's say, these one-off tests, we'll either do them like once or twice a year, or if there's something significant that we want to work on, we'll implement a protocol and then retest. So things like oxidative stress are really great. I love the like neural zoomers too. So, I mean, I just love labs. So the more information, I pair that with like, full body MRIs and soft plaque analysis from like a Clearly and a CT. So for me, more data, the better, but
it's actionable.
Yeah, it is. It is. And to be clear, no one needs to start with all that stuff. So if you were just starting, I think 1 to 2 times per year, looking at like a health assessment panel or the longevity lab, great place to start. Just get an understanding of what's going on in your body, right? There's so many things that we can have so much control over if we just know earlier. Like,
I agree.
You don't just wake up and become diabetic, like type 2. It's like if you looked at your HbA1c 6 months to a year ago or 2 or 3 years ago, you would have seen the trends going in the wrong direction, and you could have made lifestyle adjustments and, really made a big impact on that. And then after the maybe longevity or, basic kind of biochemistry labs, I would look at doing something like a gut test. Yeah. I think so much can improve, even micronutrient testing, right? 100%. So if you are eating all the right foods, but your gut is compromised and you're not absorbing it, then, you might get a poor micronutrient test back. But maybe if you had optimized the gut first, then, you would be absorbing more micronutrients. So those are my favorites. What's your favorites?
I think I agree. By the time I see my patients and they come to me, they're ready for a deep dive. And so I'm lucky in that I can order serum labs, and I'll do a lot of in-depth testing. So I do end up doing, a lot of micronutrient testing, all the B vitamins, vitamin D. I do look at insulin, leptin, hemoglobin A1C. I do, metabolic deep dives for my patients. I also like to look at advanced cardiac markers. I do autoimmune panels on a lot of my patients as well, just, to see what's brewing, because sometimes we can see antibodies show up 10 years or so before actual disease manifests. So I just agree with you in that I'm always trying to kind of see what the landscape is and also slow the train down. And then from there come up with protocols that are doable for my patients, because like you said, not everyone can do like these really intense commitment necessary protocols. And so I kind of always try to work smarter, not harder. And so stack things for my patients and then figure out what are the top tier things that we should look at, but always got toxicity as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's wild. Like you can just be being exposed to things that you have no idea. And like, you're going to come do my podcast at some point. So you'll see my house. Like I go above and beyond. I have an air monitor in every single room. I have a Jasper in every single room. We have the highest level of HVAC. We have the, we're getting a whole home dehumidifier. So like, I know exactly when there's a shift in my environment and still things can happen. We're living on Earth. I travel, I speak, things happen, but it's fun to see, what works and what doesn't in terms of protocols to detoxify quickly.
I think, but I think that probably the message that I would want to have our audience think about is that, looking deep is important, but again, the foundational aspects, like what you talked about, if you can, get your sleep really, really on point, if you can get sunlight in your eyes, sunrise and sunset, get some time outdoors, work on parasympathetic nervous system response. There's a lot that we can do without, having to do so much quantification.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people, some people love it, some people don't,
Yeah.
but I'm definitely just a data girl.
Yeah, because it's fun. I love
Yeah.
data too. So is there a particular practice that you've implemented lately that's made a big impact on your health and that you love?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the stress has definitely been, this implementation of 4 specific stress reduction times within the day. We'll talk about a couple like more advanced things for anyone that's really interested. Let's say you mastered the basics, you want to go into that. I think ozone is a really interesting therapy. So at one point on my total tox burden, I had some mycotoxins and mold showing up. Primarily from like the wildfires.
Yeah.
So, but with the ozone therapy, so you can do ozone. I actually have an at-home unit, so I can do like rectal ozone. I heard it's Gwyneth Paltrow's favorite thing. So there's that. Also, I can do like things like insufflation if I were to like have a wound or anything like that. But then at a clinic, you can do like an IV ozone, which is like a systemic therapy. And we would see when we were doing it at the clinic that we would see a lot of reduced inflammation in the arteries, which is really great, but also detoxification would be increased. So I think that's really powerful. I mean, sauna is definitely a go-to. I mean, sauna, with all the devices that I have, if you could just pick one thing to invest in, it would definitely be that, because the data is so strong, right? Like the reduction in cardiovascular events, the reduction in dementia, the all-cause mortality event reduction. It's just such a powerful tool. And it can be really relaxing, So
it's another habit stacker. You're kind of doing 3 things in one.
Totally. You can do that. Or, I love to do these things with my husband too, or with my friends. We didn't talk too much about social connection, and people listening might think like, oh, when does this girl ever, hang out or do fun things? Like, I definitely think that my perception of fun is a bit different than the standard. I think that working out with a friend at the gym is super fun. I think having them over to measure their grip strength and their, like their body impedance on the scale is fun. I think that sitting in the sauna with friends is fun. So I think it's just a little bit different of how fun looks, but I definitely prioritize strong relationships because we know that's like one of the biggest predictors of longevity.
One of the number one.
Yeah. So that, and then, being married, I love that my husband is all in on this stuff. Like I just threw him right in super fast. So when he came to visit me, first I had sent him the 7 labs prior. Then I shipped him an air doctor. Then I sent him a couple of other just like health optimization things. But when he came, he's like, your house is only health robots. Like, where's your furniture? I was working so much at the time and I would spend so much time at the clinic that I just had like a couch, an organic mattress, and then I had like a sauna. I had red lights everywhere. I had every one of my cabinet drawers where like a bunch of food would normally go. It was like WAVI brain, analysis. It was like, grip strength and my spirometers for my lung health testing and just all the things that I do on a daily basis. So my fridge was full of peptides and like just glass bottled water. So I let him in like really fast all the way in because I'm like, he's either going to love it or he's going to run.
Right.
And he proposed like 3 months later. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's important to have people that support you around you in doing these types of things. I mean, it's such an old saying, but you are who you surround yourself with. So if you want to be fit, hang out with fit people. If you want to be healthy, hang out with healthy people. If you want to be successful, hang out with successful people. Like that will rub off on you and it's encouraging and motivating. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of the puzzle.
I think so too. That wraps up today's conversation with Kayla Barnes, trailblazer for women's longevity, women's health advocate, and serial lab data sharer. Be sure to like and subscribe for more great podcast content and follow @Vibrant Labs on Instagram to see what we're up to next. See you next time.